Sorry, we're like 3 minutes late, I think. Tom should be joining us in a second. He just messaged me on Instagram. He's probably having connection issues. So what's up?
How's it going, everybody?
Yeah, let us know where you're from. What's up, Paul? Do you know Paul? He's Florida FBA or FBA Florida. Really
Oh, I guess it was, yeah.
been talking to him a lot in the DMs lately. You guys have any questions, drop them in the stream. Yeah. How's your weekend?
Somebody asked me to do a Q&A this weekend.
Who?
I forget who it was now. They asked me a few days ago.
Ooh,
People seem to like those, you know?
What's going on, TJ? What's up, David? David's content has been fire lately. I love all the stories and everything he's been telling. If you're not following at David AMZ Hustle, go follow him on Instagram. I don't know if his Twitter is the same, but definitely a beast. Doing big things. Oh, Tom is here. Let him get situated. Yeah. So here we go. Ready to roll?
You guys. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay?
Yep. We're live, so we're all good if you're good.
Cool. Sorry. Technical issues, as you do not even kind of get started.
No worries at all. No worries at all. Nicole. Every time we like talk, you have like a different background. You're in like a beautiful like scenery, and like it's just like damn, like one time in life.
I'm still at home, but I've basically just moved around. But like out there, like this is, we're like it's like the apartment's like 11th floor, so it's like a really nice view, but just the blinds are down because it's quite bright. But I really like it. I love being able to see. We live very much in the center of Mexico City, so I really enjoy it. But, yeah, I do travel quite a lot, unfortunately.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for being here. Do you want to give, for the people who don't know you, a little bit background, kind of your story?
So my name is Thomas Parkinson. I'm obviously from England, you can probably tell, and I'm 37 years old. I studied electronic engineering at university, dropped out, failed. I went into bar management for 5 years. Enjoyed it, did pretty well, like a general manager. Then went into the bowling alleys, hated that, got fired for mischievous conduct because it's like I hated doing what I was doing as well. Then I went into recruitment for 2 years, and then what happened? And then I moved to London. And then I started my first business, which I shut down after a year, which was procurement into the public sector. And I hate dealing with like the public sector, like government, just so slow. And then after that, I broke up with my girlfriend for 6 years. Basically, I started building my Amazon business, ran it for about a year, she said, to start with. Broke up with my girlfriend then, and then basically my friend said go to Thailand for a week, for a month, and then see what happens. And I basically went off for 4 weeks and never came back, and that was like 5-6 years ago. Been doing Amazon UK since that time. So it's OA Arbitrage. Last year it's like 3 million, I think it was, in sales. Wow. Massive team, like 25. And then we started I started Fast Track FBA 4 years ago. Yeah, 4 years ago, just looking at the year. And that's like a service company to help people with Amazon services. So we do like leads, virtual assistants, information products, probably find on YouTube. And then the other one that I do off that is at about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, we started Amazon USA. Last year, I think we did like 1.2. And there's a small team which runs that as well. And I obviously travel a lot. Like I spent the whole of January in the Philippines, like 6 different countries. Last year, I spent 3 months in hotels. And obviously play a lot of points game as well. So I quite enjoy that. I really want to kind of do like building things, but having a good quality of life. Like I really enjoy the hustle. I will work 16 hours a day, but I also won't do, what do you call it, like non-stop. I want to have a bit of balance. Sometimes it's like crazy non-stop. Sometimes it's like doing nothing. So yeah, that's me. And I live in Mexico City right now. Been here 2 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when did you launch the US store?
2 years, 2 years, probably 2 years ago. I don't know the exact date. I think the exact date we technically incorporated probably was around April 2020. Yeah, 2021, I think it was. But we probably didn't start trading until probably June, July, because I'm obviously not American, so I had to do it all remotely. And then my thing was is get it created, then bother doing the account. I think it was COVID, and I think even to get the EIN number took like 8 weeks, 12 weeks, maybe even 13.
Wow.
It was like, I want to kill myself. This is horrendous. So, yeah, it was incorporated
Now I
to get the number.
I recently just started like a new thing, and yeah, I think as soon as you pay for it, like you just download it and they give it to you.
Yeah.
So 8 weeks is crazy.
I was a bit obviously I think when I paid for it, they had the option to do like the very quick version. And I thought, oh, you know what, I'm not in a rush. I can wait a week or two. It's fine. Had I known it would have been like closer to 3 months, I would have said I'm not going to do that at all. But you know, you never know. So that delayed things, but it's okay. There's always a lot to get on with, and there's always stuff to get going. So, but I mean, like, it's really interesting seeing the differences between the UK and the US market, and also like seeing the US side. Like it's a lot more profitable and a lot more opportunities than the UK. But obviously, but even just the fact that it's like a 5 times bigger marketplace, so that has a real impact. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you why you made the switch, but added it. But that makes a lot of sense.
I think to put it in perspective, the USA sales rank 250,000 is the same as 100,000 in the UK.
Oh, wow.
So if you're looking like 10 sales per month in the UK, you're like, oh, cool, I found something 10 sales per month. Okay, it's not the most amazing, but it's okay. I'm fine with 10 sales per month. In the US, you're like 10 sales per month. Is that it? Like, I'm not going to waste my time with that. It's a very different marketplace, and obviously the top end is insane, like how high it goes.
Wow, that's amazing. Hello, my fellow Americans, and happy tea and crumpets.
I'm actually drinking tea. I normally drink coffee. This says coffee, but I am drinking tea. My girlfriend has all these like herbal teas. I love minty flavored teas. I love them. They're great. But it's also I had like 4 coffees today, so I probably shouldn't have any more.
Do you guys have any questions? Drop them below. So do you want to talk about I really like your work-life balance and you have a huge team of basically, I think they're all overseas, correct?
Yeah, all Philippines. So if I'm going to give you an idea, I really like the lifestyle design. Obviously, I've interviewed both of you guys. Really interesting. And Michaela, obviously, you've done some really interesting stuff where you've done like the wholesale. You're doing prep. You're doing your houses. And a lot of people would probably be like, "Why don't you just keep doing Amazon?" And I get that. But I think a couple of things is. When I was 24 as a bar manager, I was earning good money, like 24 in the UK, probably earning like $100,000 with bonuses in a place where you could live off $20,000, which is like incredible. And guess what I did? I spent everything, like absolutely everything. And what I kind of realized, and also I wasn't very happy. And what I and I was working a lot. And what I realized was that money wasn't the answer to happiness. You have to kind of create it. Yes, obviously it's much better to be rich than it is to be poor, of course. But the idea is that it does have it's not an infinite return, should we say. So I asked myself a really weird question, like, if money wasn't a problem, but you could survive, what would you do? And the kind of analogy would be, if you had, I don't know, $4,000 every month guaranteed to come in, you're not going to be super rich. But if you didn't even have to get out of bed, like universal basic income, what would you then do? Would you go live in the south of France and start take up painting because that's what you really wanted to do? So it posed a question in my life. My life was very much around I want to build. I just want to have fun. I want to see the world. I want to meet interesting people, and I want to have a go at doing it myself. So travel was a really big part of that. I really enjoyed it because it's freedom. Also, as well, you don't know what you don't know until you see something else. And in regards to American culture is very different to say like Filipino culture, which is very different to Thai culture. And you don't really realize it until you go there. And I find that fascinating. And then the other result is, so number one, I really enjoyed the travel side. Number two, the low cost of living allowed me to build my business. And then number three is the fact that I've always structured my businesses around, I will work insanely hard, but I have to be able to see the way out. I refuse to build a business whereby this is a job. So that always means using leverage, people, time, money, software, for example, to solve problems. And I will work to do it now, but I will not continue to do it forever. So hence why we hire the teams. And then the other one is the fact that when I structure my kind of week, I do time boxing like a maniac. I can cut my week down to 1 hour a week, or I can go to 4 hours a week, and then I can go up to like 10, and then I can go up to 60 if I want to. But I can kind of scale it back down again, which is a really important point. And again, I think like, you know, we're very much in like the hustle culture. Everyone's like hustle, hustle, hustle. And I'm like, it's okay. I think hustling's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's right. But also, but I think you've also got to hustle to be able to say, I'm going to get somewhere, stop and reevaluate, not just hustle forever. Because I'm like, I didn't take the risk of entrepreneurship and, you know, all the risk that we have and the stress and everything, so that I could just effectively have another job. And 95% of businesses fail within 5 years. So like, you would actually be better off getting a job, statistically speaking.
No, yeah, that's super interesting too. So when you were thinking through that then, so you basically you wanted basically like a sellable business. Is that kind of how you look at it?
Not really, because like, I'm not really interested in selling it. I always wanted something that it's always more of a lifestyle business as opposed to a sellable one. A sellable business is one where you have to get it to put it this way, I do believe that your business should be a position that you should be able to sell it if that's it. Arbitrage businesses are quite hard to sell because there's not really a market for it, should we say? And like, not many people buy and sell, but like your private label businesses, you can buy and sell easily. But I think you should always get to a point whereby if you aim to be able to say I could sell it, that means you have good systems and teams in place that it's not a job. So I think that's a very good metric to measure it by, but I wouldn't say that that's my goal. My goal is, because the other question is, the other question is, if you sell it, then what? And like, by the way, you do what you do because you love it. And interesting enough, I was at ClickFunnels last year, and Russell Bronson got, he does ClickFunnels. He got offered to sell, and I'm guessing it was probably like 250 million or something. So a massive amount of money. And he had a conversation with Tony Robbins on his like private island, and he filmed it and he recorded it. And Tony Robbins basically said, "Cool, you can sell us a lot of money. Then what?" And he's like, "I don't know." And he's like, "You're the ClickFunnels guy. You are the guy who does ClickFunnels. Like, you can't sell it. This is who you are. This is about your thing." And he's like, "You're right. I love what I do." Like, and I think that's the kind of goal. And like, I think, yes, you should have financial freedom. Yes, or should say financially independent and be happy. But I think also as well, it should be about designing a lifestyle that you want, not just focusing off the money, because again, the money isn't the answer. Does that help?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And yeah, I feel like it's definitely always interesting. So could you take us back to the beginning? So now I think you have like 75 people working for you. So how did you get up to 75?
Oh, I can. Oh my God. Okay. So I get a report once a month in an all-hands meeting, which tells me how many staff we have. About a year ago, it was 33. We did peak at 85, 88, I think it was. I think it was 88. But we've probably trimmed down now. We're probably down more to like 60s. And there's a couple of reasons for it, and I'll get to that later. But long story short, when I left university, I went straight into. I used to work in the student union bars. Then I went into bar management, and my very first job was running student union bars, of which I had 120 staff, which was like, oh my God, I want to kill myself. And I was the only manager. This was like, you would go into a bar and the supervisors in the bar would be like, we've put buckets out. I'm like, why are there buckets? They're like, so that's when the customers get sick, they can throw up in the bucket and then they can go and buy some more beer. I was like, there are laws against this thing. You're like, that's illegal. You're not allowed to serve alcohol to the point they're throwing up. I was like, and by the way, they're selling under my name as well. So I was like, oh my God. So I basically had a crash course in like how to manage staff, and I'd done it for a long period of time. So when I kind of started my first business, which was around, 28, 29, I started doing procurement. I did it on my own, and it was okay, but I still remember it. Like, I had to be on the phone, I had to be there, and I was like, I've got a job. I've literally got a job. I was like, I do not want to be doing this. So when I went over to Amazon, I kind of understood that the majority of Amazon is sourcing. That's where we add value. We love the idea of Amazon. We don't ever have to talk to anyone other than the fact that we just have to find cheap products to sell them, which is like probably a lot of people get into it. And I think I hired my friend told me he was like a digital nomad guy who did like affiliate websites. He's like, man, you should go hire someone from the Philippines, like onlinejobs.ph. It's like, what? Like you figure it out, and then you put your job advert out. And I still remember to this day, it was like, I'm looking for an admin assistant, like $4 an hour, fine. And it was like 250 applications. So I was like, oh my God, I should have like filtered it or done some filtering, and you learn that process. So I like hired one. She worked with me for like 4 years, I think it was. I've met her family many times. But in that first year, I think I probably hired like 5 staff, of which 4 of them were all a disaster. I was a disaster at managing them. I lost money in my first year on Amazon. Not huge, like, £5,000, £6,000, but I still lost money. And it asked some really good questions, like, these guys are finding deals, but like, how much money are they really making? Because we know it. You can buy a deal today and it looks profitable. It doesn't mean you're actually making profitable deals, because the market changes and you've got to learn from that. And the first year I was like, I haven't made any money. I was like, but I understand the model and I like it. I think it's really good. And then it was kind of like I started taking the business seriously. I think I was in Thailand. I broke up in a 6-year relationship and was drinking for 6 nights a week. It was like horrendous. Like, I'm a disaster. And I was like, right, I need to take the business seriously. And it's kind of a bit of a blur, but I think I kind of went to probably like 5 or 6 staff, which is what most people have. And by the way, I'm pretty happy managing. And we were probably doing like nothing huge, 40K a month. And I went, right, I'm going for a million a year. That's the goal I want to do. So I wrote this big kind of YouTube video, like 1 million in 18 months. And we wrote it all out. We planned it all out. And you just do the numbers. And like math, this is just numbers, this business. And you do it all. And we just kept, we grew the UK side. That was fine. And we did the 1 million in 12 months rather than 18. And then like I went off to do like build the USA. And we grew, and then the USA, while I wasn't doing anything, went from 1 million to 2.5 million. It's like, oh my God. And then the other one was the fact that we built Fast Track FBA. And I really enjoy Fast Track FBA, because when I first started Amazon, it's probably like most people, like you don't ever want to talk to someone. So Amazon's amazing. Like you can hide behind it. But then I was like, I'm really lonely. Like I'm quite bored. So like Fast Track FBA was a really good way to connect. So I really enjoyed that, build communities, and then we just carried on building. But at a fundamental level, within Fast Track FBA, we have a recruitment service, which has right now has about 3 full-time recruiters. So they're recruiting VAs to other people's businesses. We've hired about 600 VAs for people into their businesses. It's a lot. And also I have a full-time HR manager who is the ex-HR business partner of PepsiCo in the Philippines. And we also have really good networks into Filipino recruitment. So the idea is when it's like, can we hire someone? I didn't even have to really do anything. I just ask. And we have a whole team that make it happen. So hence why, like, I remember some months last year, we already had like 50 staff. We added another 6 staff on each month. It was like, this is quite crazy. Which, by the way, don't do ever. Nightmare. Hence why we went back down again, because it's like, ooh, stress. They're not doing as much as we thought, and they weren't as productive as we wanted them to be. But I think this is the nature of entrepreneurship, is the fact that you've got to keep trying to push it and do it. So yeah, that's my story of hiring staff. Make sense?
Yeah. Can't hang out today. Just popped in to say hello. See you in the replay. I don't even want to know 88 people forget about having the best staff.
I can kind of give you a bit of, if you want to know about structure. So like we had 2 real companies. So I had 2 direct reports. One which is Fast Track FBA. I had an ops manager. She's actually lived in the UK before. She is in the Philippines. And then underneath that we have like dev team, marketing team, HR. We have the VA Academy team, which does all the recruitment side, the accounting function, and the leads function, and then the USS, which is a software platform. And then on the Amazon side, which is the interesting one, I basically realized that I fill a role in the Amazon. So an ops manager who basically manages both businesses as the owner operator. Then in the USA it was quite simple. It was just a purchasing manager, an assistant purchaser, and like staff plus an admin staff. And then in the UK it was a much bigger operation. So we had 1 purchasing manager. I think it was 3 or 4 assistants. and then each of them had like 4 staff underneath them or 5 staff underneath them plus 2 admin VAs. So quite a sizable team. The one thing which I'll say is like I'm kind of merging that in my head because we did merge the Leeds team into the Amazon businesses. Because what I realized is I'm paying once in one business and I'm paying again in the other business through labor to find the same deal.
Ah, okay.
So I was like, this is stupid. Why am I paying twice for the same work? The same result. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Which is something that most people don't deal with. So we probably run much bigger teams than what most people normally would for the size of the operation.
Yeah. How could you make sure that someone you hired isn't also working from someone else too, or giving leads to someone else?
Great question. So I will give you the answer, which I always talk about with our clients. Long story short is you can't. It's impossible. By the way, if people in the CIA or if in like people in the Air Force can give information to Russia, we can't stop VAs doing stuff. Like if they really want to do it, it's going to happen. But there's a couple of things you can do, and there's 2 areas you want to kind of look at. Number one is the second area, which I'll talk about in a minute, is the kind of consequences for doing it. And they're the consequences are if you do it, you get fired. The consequences are that if you do it, this is going to risk your job. You're going to lose your livelihood, this great opportunity, like the disciplinary process. That's the fallback. You really don't want to be using that. What you really want to do is the incentive side. And that's we have a great working environment. You understand that your bonuses are based off your actual profit, not like number of deals submitted, which is why you shouldn't pay bonuses to deals submitted, because all you're doing is incentivizing them to give out more deals to other people. But you pay on actual profits, so they protect them. Also, as well, you we've done some other cool, like you can do detection and stuff, but really you want to make it so that like if someone were to run into their house, break into the house, the first thing they do is like eat the paper with the credit cards and the deals on them. Like they protect that at first thing. That's the thing. Whereas the other end is the disciplinary, and a lot of the time that doesn't work. But that's the fallback. You really want I'm motivated not to steal because I love you, I love the company, and I love you and the team. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's a lot. If you want to know, I can tell you a lot of cool tricks that you can do, which might help you discover if you're VA. There's one that we've done many times, which could help if you're worried about your VA sharing.
What are some of the cool tricks you could do to make sure your VA isn't sharing leads?
Well, the one that I always kind of talk about is quite challenging, but it's a really good way to do it. So just randomly out of the blue, give your VA a call and ask them, say, hey, look, I just want to ask you to see something because I think there might be a problem with like something setting on your software. I'm just going to record it because see it, maybe I can look back and find it, but I'm just going to ask you to do a couple of things for me. So you want to make it completely out of the blue, very random, no problem, yeah, absolutely fine. So you're going to ask them to do something completely off piece, and then you want to get the information, you want to get a couple bits of information, and be like, okay, cool, like I think there's a problem. Like, any chance you could send it through this way? What you're trying to do is think about the different communication channels, because if they communicate to you, they're going to communicate to someone else. So they'll probably communicate to you through WhatsApp, through Skype, through Discord, through Slack. So you're going to want to send this information through all those channels. Why? Because as they load up that channel on the screen share that you're recording, you're now going to see all the other good communication. Mm-hmm. And if I'm sending my deals to John at Side Hustle Experiment, and all of a sudden I see John at Side Hustle Experiment sees that Tom's talking to FBA Michaela, it's like, what are you doing talking to FBA Michaela? I thought you worked for me. Why are you talking to her? So number one is that. Number two is then you want to go into like the Google Sheets. Say, hey, can you just load up a Google Sheet? No, just go to the main one, quickly scroll down. I want to see if you have a file that I've got. Scroll down, you're looking at all the sheet files. Why? Because if they're a VA, they're probably going to have a sheets, aren't they? Which will be someone else's deal sheet. You'd be like, I don't recognize that. And I've done this so many times, and I've basically been like, what is that? And then the VA's gone, quick, close screen share. And then what's really funny is like 2 seconds later, they've deleted it, loaded it back up again. And they're like, oh, sorry, there was a technical problem. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to go back and look at that recording that I just made, because now I'm going to see the evidence. And I'm like, you're gone. Make sense?
Okay. So if you do find another sheet or something, that's it. Like it's kind of over.
No, it might. So my first question is my first question is, what is that? As in, like, so if there's another sheet and I'm like, hey, what is that sheet? And then it's all like, oh my God. And then they delete it, they're gone. Because you're not being honest with me. But on the other hand, if I'm like, what's that sheet? And you click on the sheet and load it up, and I'm like, Oh, okay, it's your like home improvement budget called fast track FBA is money for home improvement. You know, it's how you're going to calculate your bonus and where you're going to spend it. I'm fine with that. Like, I have no problem. So, I always say, like, there is no hard and fast answer. It's reason to create an investigation. Unfortunately, I've fired so many staff over my life, in person and online. And I've had to do HR process to the point that it's gone to court. But I've just learned how to do that. And the answer is that whenever you have something to suspect, they've not done anything wrong at that point. Your job is to investigate and to ask questions. That's the really important point. So yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I feel like no matter how much you try to prevent that from happening, it's part of it. Like, you can make the best environment in the world for these people, and some people are just prone to do things like that, and that's just human nature. And people sometimes feel like, oh well, it's me, and it's not always you. It may just be them. I mean, always check to make sure. Be like, okay, like, was there something that I could have done? You know, the environment could have been better. Maybe the bonus structure could have been better. But I would be always quick to blame yourself and be like, well, it was my fault that they were, you know, sharing leads. They didn't feel like I was providing them with whatever. I mean, some people are just that way, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, I think like I really agree, and I think you need to understand there are stages. So first things first is I have suspicions. Then you go through like you do detection method. You know, like the classic one is I bought a deal and all the deal's tanking. You're like, okay, if you're doing arbitrage on the leads list, like yeah, that's just normal. That isn't really a good enough suspicion. But like if you have a reason to believe it, fine. Then number 2 is about can you detect it, and then number 3 is about asking the why, and really trying to ask that why without saying it's my fault. Because what's really, like, I really agree with what you're saying, but I'm very careful that when we go into that conversation about, hey, I am going to have to let you go, but before I let you go, I'm really going to I want to understand like why, what happened. And if I start giving them answers, then they might just use that back at me. And I want to be very mindful of it to say nothing. Because if by the way, there are there are people who are filthy rich. I'm not saying like filthy is about being rich is a filthy thing, not at all. But I mean they've got a lot of money and they go and do things for even more money. And like to you and me, you're like, you already had $1 billion. Why do you need 2 more billion? Because I want the money. It does happen. So everyone has their own motivations, and I think HR and having to do disciplinaries in my previous life have always taught me go into those things without doing leading questions, ask very open questions, and your job is to try and understand. Because if there is something you're doing, then it could be happening to other people, and your job is to find that out to try and build a better system internally. And also to learn about you. Exit interviews are the best ones.
That makes sense. Do you hire someone with sourcing experience, or do you hire someone that's brand new?
We do both. So if we do it within if I just talk about within our service, there's two questions about someone's sourcing experience. Generally speaking, if you've got good sourcing experience, why are you looking for a job? You've probably got sources in your business where you're you are worth your weight in gold, never you're so amazing. But also I do appreciate that sometimes businesses don't go the right way, and people have to move on and stuff. Or my God, my first business is a procurement. I shut it down. If I had staff, it's not their fault. I just wasn't interested in it. I didn't want to do it. So there is pros and cons. But I would just be mindful of that. Number 2, new staff are absolutely fine, but I would be very mindful of setting very clear expectations of what you want. And if I put you measurables, because measurable is the key metric we look at, and you've got to do that. And you've got to, by the way, when you're managing VAs, you've got to set expectation. So if I just make it really simple, in the OA game, we look at per week spend. Month 1, $500. Month 2, $1,000. This is per week. Month 3, 1,500. And you want to keep going more. If you're doing Michaela, your VA spending $500 a week, she'd be like, you're fired, because that's not enough money. Wholesale, you need a lot more. But OA, you're generally like 500, good enough margin, you're okay. Wholesale, you have different ones. But again, define your measure of success. But I'm not too worried. The biggest part of it is really is why us? Why this job? Why do you want this? And by the way, if you ever watch my interviews on YouTube, they're 100,000 views plus for this one interview. I'm literally this job is the worst job you'll ever do. It's the most boring copy and paste. You'll never want to do it in your life. My God, I won't even do it. That's why I'm hiring you. I'm trying not to let them do the job. And the interesting thing is I want them no, yeah, I want this job. Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm cool, fine. I'm not saying that's the best way to do it, but the idea is to say that don't sell them the job. see how much like they really want it, make them work for it, because anyone will take a job if you give it to them, but those who really want it will actually do the hard work. And it's hard. Like, we know this is hard, because otherwise everyone watching us right now would be a millionaire and no one would have a job, but it's not. It is hard.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Do you think you know more about kind of like the Filipino culture? Do you know, like, here we have like gurus on like TikTok and like Instagram, all that kind of stuff. Do you think there's one out there like teaching people how to work for like 5 different people?
There's not one. There's lots.
Really?
Lots. My team know them.
And then like I'm like, Thomas is like so ingrained over there, like he has to know.
My team know them. Like, what's really funny is obviously because I'm quite big on YouTube in regards to the VA space and like them. So like, when they kind of look like, hey, I want to go work for Amazon sellers, they generally talk about our company because we recruit so much, and we have all, like my team go and talk in their communities. Like, my team would do this, but in their communities. And by the way, it's really interesting. There are people right now, like David's talking about, do you hire someone with sourcing experience or brand new? They will go and pay $600 for a training course with someone in the Philippines to learn how to become a VA to come work for John. Like, very normal. And by the way, like, we've had it. I've had it where someone's about to promote to a purchaser, and I literally did that kind of check, and we caught them out on it. And what was really funny is 2 of my customers, not in the VA service but in the lead service, hired my VA after we fired her. Didn't bother to ask me, even though they put my company name on her. So she put my company on CV. She said, "Oh, Tom just had to let me go. It wasn't working. Like, there was problems." And then 6 months later, the 2 customers found out she was working for the same person. She was working for both of them. And they both approached me and said, "Your person fired." I was like, "Oh my God, this is a nightmare." I was like, but it does happen. And by the way, like, it's common knowledge. They all talk. They all know about it. But what you're looking for, and when we do the hiring process, coming back to David, is I'm looking for people who have a history of good jobs, never working more than one. Number 2, they have a reason to want to stay in the job for a long period of time. Generally, like, it's a stay-at-home mum. She's like, cool. Like, she wants an easy life. She doesn't want to have to manage 2 clients. That's called stress. Like, John and FBA Michaela, my God, you 2 stressful. You're asking for stuff. So we're just mindful around that. So you can see the other ones you can do. Other little tips I'll share is it's kind of like you could do like time tracking. One we have done in the past is there's like a Chrome extension to download the browsing history. So we literally just say, hey, can you install this Chrome extension and download the last week's browsing history? It's quite an interesting thing when you go through it. Like, ooh, why are you like? By the way, you can see like Instagram and chat, not the chat messages, just the URLs. So you can see, and you're like, you said you weren't working at this time, and I can see you were working. What's going on around here? You're looking for anomalies. That's it. Yeah, we've done that. We actually did that not for the fact that we're looking for people to multiple clients. We're looking at to see what's the ratio of websites visited per hour worked, because speed is a very core metric of what we look at.
Interesting.
Like, lots of random stuff.
Tom makes an interesting point about VAs that brings up another question. How much work do you expect for the money paid to the VA? How do you create an expectation of production with the VAs?
It's really simple. Like, I can give you the number. I think I know them pretty much off the top of my head. So a VA is going to cost you $3 an hour, which is basically it's 25,000 PHP, which is about $400, I believe it is, a month for a 40-hour work week. That's what we charge at. That's what the rate we recommend for you, and it's a good rate. Like, by the way, if you want to go to Manila, it takes like 2 hours to get in traffic to get there and get out. So they're really happy. By the way, it's actually a good wage in an office in Manila. Like, I know a lot of people earning, like, we're doing 25,000 PHP in a bank. The clerk in a bank might be on like 15,000 PHP. So just be mindful. Like, it's quite a big difference. So $3 an hour for you, not much. So just call it $500. Really simple. So long story short is, if you're spending $500 in per week at 30% ROI, so I'm doing some math in my head, 30% times 500 times 30% should be about $630 in estimated gross profit for 1 week's worth of purchase. No, for 1 month. Sorry, 1 month. Get that right, Tom. So in your first month, you're going to do 500 times 4.2. It's 4.2 weeks in a year. Multiplied by 30% will equal $630 worth of estimated profit. Then obviously you're going to take off the $500 you just paid through the year, and you're going to be left with about $130 of actual cash. Not great, but you're just getting started. And again, that's why we go up from 500 per week up to 1,000. So your next week, you're going to be $630 as month 1 gross profit. Month 2 will be 1,260 gross profit, but you're still only paying 500. So now you start looking, okay, cool. Now I'm making about $700 profit. Keep going to 1,500. Like, to be honest, that's where we look at 1,500 per week for a VA. But they should keep increasing up to about month 6, where you're probably going to be looking about 2,500. If they're good, and it depends on your thing, like Michaela's going to be buying probably massive bulk. So she could be doing huge numbers because of the wholesale nature of it. And if you're doing big bulk, you can get a lot more. But there's no reason why they couldn't, should we say, be generating you over like 2,500 gross profit per month. Minus that, you're looking 2,000 net easy. That's quite very feasible. And for us, like, we talk about it. So when you hire a VA through us, we have a whole tracking sheet, which literally tells you how much have I spent, what's the estimated profit on it, and the VA kind of knows that, and you can see that because you share it with the VA and we track it. And the reason why this is really important is the fact that I believe it's really important for the VA to understand the results of their work. And there's 2 metrics that you should really look at. And we only talk about one in the VA Academy initially because of times. Number 1 is the estimated gross profit at purchase. So whatever you buy, the ROI on that, what you think the profit you're going to make before you paid them. Then the second one is the actual gross profit. So when it does sell at the market price, what's the profit you generated from that? And we have like our tools where you can just literally code a SKU with a VA, and then like maybe on inventory labs once a month, download the inventory lab, filter out for that SKU, and add up the profit and be like, you cost me $500, you made me 2,500, so 2,000, great. I'm going to give you 10%, bonus scheme, done. They get a nice chunky bonus. It's very big relative to the salary, and you're happy because the business has worked out. And now you're aligned. And the reason why I say always do bonuses on actual rather than estimated gross profit is because you're aligning it towards the company's success. Whereas if it's on estimated gross profit, cool, I've just found these great deals, sir or ma'am. Cool, here's your bonus. And by the way, I'm going to go sell them to 2 other people, which obviously doesn't align with company profitability. Which is kind of like, when like Lehman Brothers went under, but they're still paying big bonuses.
Because they don't want it to tank because their money is tied to that.
Yeah.
Question. So say you have really good employees and they've worked for you for how long a period of a time before you like give them a raise, or do you just do bonuses? Like I have 3 really good VAs that work for me, and I think they've been working for me like 6 months now. And I obviously don't want to give them a raise too early and then they slack off. And then I don't want to be too late and then they like leave because they're phenomenal. Like I don't want them to leave, obviously. Kind of how do you balance that?
It's a great question, and I'm gonna tell you something that you don't think. And the money doesn't matter. It's like, and by the way, you know this because if you look at retention figures within US companies, pay is about number 5. I think it is on what matters to the why I work in a company. And I'm not saying the money doesn't matter; it does, but obviously it's not the biggest driver that you think of. So, in regards to your answer, and I'll give you an answer which I'd really recommend. Number 1, you've got 3. It's not just 1, but it looks like you might have some more. So number 1 is I would define a set time that you do a raise. So if I talk about how we do it, it's January. January is the month that we do the raises. So, and we say you have to be in the company for at least 6 months. And if you've worked for the company for 6 months and you have no disciplinary action against you, like written warning, for example, then you're eligible for the raise. Now, we're a bit more advanced, so we have performance-based raises, so we'll give a range between 3 and about 6%. And that's it. That's a standard issue raise, and that's depending on your performance management. But you might just be like, right, 5% done, everyone gets 5% happy, because for you it's not a big thing. So I would implement that rule. What I would then think about is, especially around like sources, I just think having a company generic policy is a very easy way to manage. We want to make simpler. Number two, I'm a big believer in keeping your cost base low, but paying out great bonuses. So when the company does well, you do well. But when the company doesn't, you don't have much cost. And I've seen it too many times where people have got really high raises because for you, $3 an hour is nothing. You're like, what? This is like, I feel like I feel horrendous. But it's not saying that you should be paying them more. And I know there's a whole argument about like, is it fair? And I'm not going to go into that. But what I will say is like, I want it so that when the company succeeds, you succeed. And when the company doesn't succeed, you don't succeed. So we tie it very much towards that. So the pay is a great rate. It's fine. It works. The bonus increase is a fair increase. And then number two is the fact that you can be paid, multiples if you wanted it to of your salary if you delivered that. I probably wouldn't go multiples. We'll probably keep them up to like 1 times your salary. But it's up to you how you want to structure it. It's really up to you. I'd just be mindful. And the reason why I say this is because even like Saros, he paid insane bonuses. Like he was paying bonuses to his sources so much that it would be a very, very good salary for someone in the US. I was like, yeah, like I can't tell you how much, but like what I just by the way, I've seen it in my company, not my company, other people's companies. Like their VAs work for them for like 3 months. They absolutely love them, of course, because it's like wow thing. And what they do is they put their pay up, and they're like, oh cool, and then all of a sudden the performance doesn't continue because you think you pay them more, they get great performance, and like that's what we hope. But you're an entrepreneur and you're motivated by that. Other people are like, I want to here to do a good job. And I would do it like, you've got to keep that element of we reward performance. A farmer can't plow his field unless he's planted the crops. Plant the crops, you'll get the field, whatever it is, the harvest. So that's money side. Second part of it is really about you. Be a great leader. So a couple of things you can do. Number one, take every day, every Monday, make a point in your calendar, 10 minutes to recognize one thing about every single person in your team. Put it in a chat. Hey, Bob, I just want to say last week you did this. Bob might be the worst bloody employee last week. So find one thing to like about him and say, well done, I love it. Put it into an internal chat channel on Slack or whatever. Recognize people's success. This works across everything. Number two is whenever we have the meetings, I'm always asking, how are you? How did you sleep last night? What did you do on the weekend? Get to know them on a personal level. And then number three, once a year, just sit down with them. Where are you going? What do you want to do? Like, is this business for you? Are you going to stay here forever? Do you want to continue developing? Develop them on a personal level. It might be like, hey, like you give them like reward. It might be like, hey, like I'm really interested in creative writing. Okay, cool. Well, achieve this result for the company. I'll pay for a creative writing course. Like, I think a really good thing from a holistic level is like I know when my managers are going to leave me because I know why they joined me, and I know that they're interested in being Amazon sellers themselves. And you might be like, oh my god, they're your competition, but like everyone you speak to right now is your competition technically. But I think the other one is that if they're aligned with my success and I teach them everything, they're going to do a really good job. And by the way, that all I ask them is that when you do decide to leave, we work together and we have a great exit and hire someone to replace you. And they're like, absolutely fine. So again, it's like a synergy. We work together. We understand one another. We care about each other. Filipinos love that. They love the fact that you care about them on a personal level. I've fired people and they've said me, and they've come back to me, and they've been crying on the call, and then they come back to me and say, I just want to say thank you so much. I loved working for you. Like, it's like, so, but care about them because they'll stay even when you're not paying them that much. Does that make sense? Does that help you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just hard, I think, finding that balance because like $3 an hour to us obviously isn't anything at all. And then you get like in that cycle of like I feel bad because like they're making $3 an hour, but you know what I mean? Oh, it's just hard for me. I guess I just feel bad in certain ways.
Let me ask you a question. Let's say, for example, you lived off $20 an hour. I don't know how much you live off at all, but just say, for example, that's it. How much does McDonald's pay, may I ask?
What did you say? McDonald's?
McDonald's, $15 an hour?
I think like 13 where I live.
$13 an hour.
Getting 15 around here.
Yeah,
if you go speak to someone in like Sweden, oh my God, that's slavery. Sweden, it would be like $28 an hour, minimum wage. Why? Because the cost of their economy is so much different. Dubai, for example, or, like, I'm not saying Dubai is actually a good one, but what you got to understand is that it's all relative. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Like, if you want to go pay them more, you're more than welcome to do that. But what I believe in is that look for a win-win. Look for a point whereby I will pay you more if you deliver the results for the company. And you can be paid a very handsome salary, and that works. But what I don't like doing is saying, I will pay you a very high base, and then you might just deliver something. I want to incentivize you to outperform so much more because you see the opportunity.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I actually wasn't thinking about it like that. I was like, oh, like that's like a small raise, but that works there. But like totally forgot the fact that like they're also getting money based on their performance. So they're not just getting an extra 10 cents or whatever that number is on $3. It's like, no, they're constantly getting bonuses.
Yeah. And like you could, like you're put at the end of the day, look, you're here to add value to society, and you do that ironically by buying cheap products and reselling them on Amazon for a price because that's what people find valuable. And your job is to do that as efficiently as possible, and the difference is the profit you get to keep. And the better you do it, the more money you make. So I just believe just build your entire system whereby everyone's aligned towards that one goal. Because it's kind of like fishes swimming in the wrong direction. If everyone swims in the right direction, you're going to have massive synergies. That's really going to help you. So, but again, it's like, again, by the way, your problem, what you just said, Michaela, is I feel bad. Understand the word you said there. I feel, it's in here.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean it's true.
I know. I guess I just see how much money I make, and then I see how much money they make, and I'm like, oh my God, like Michaela.
But there's nothing stopping them starting their own Amazon store, is there? And by the way, why didn't you have that same conversation with your next door neighbor? I make more money than my next door neighbor. How dare you make more money? Why don't you give your money to the next door neighbor?
I know. It's just hard sometimes.
I watch many of your videos on YouTube. It's helped me hire VA. I just don't have time to manage them, and everything they sent me tanked in price. I don't know if that's
really good.
But
yeah, I'll do two things. Tanking in price, simple. There's your two elements. Number one, it's your deal analysis on the products, and then number two is the fact that that's why you need to be showing them the actual gross profit, not the estimated. And when you show them the actual, you need to be asking questions around that, like, hey, this product's tanked, this product's tanked. And then you go back to it and you ask them, how did you find this product? And if the answer is, well, I went to the competitor's website and I looked at what they were selling, and then I went and found the supplier and did it. Like, so you're storefront stalking or copying the competitors. No wonder why everyone's doing it. Like, or like you paid me $500 a month and I went and spent $100 a month on a leads list, and now I give you those leads lists. That's why they're tanking. Seen that before, by the way. So that's number one, tanking, and you've got to have that conversation. Apart from if you're buying bad deals. But number two, we just do a really simple methodology within our business. Where we recommend it to the BA Academy. It's a 1 hour call, and the hour call is structured like this. Number one, 5 minutes. How are you? How's the weekend? Build the relationship, personal. Number two is define the measure of success, design the result. What are you here to achieve? Today, we're here to review your deals to spend $500 this week. That's it. Done. Number three is then we jump into what we're actually going to be doing. So we're going to review your deals. Fantastic. And that's the big kind of like 45 minutes Q&A. And then we go number four is I'll give them some kind of reflection on it. Like, I like these deals. I like these deals. I'm probably going to spend this much. Here's how much I think I'm going to spend. Number five is you're going to ask them, okay, so based on the information we've done today, what are you going to do tomorrow? And really, we're trying to get them to think. So I'm not going to tell them. I want them to think, and I can correct their course if it's wrong. And then finally, number six, we repeat that 6 times a week or 5 times a week. So that's really the methodology. It's really simple. And a couple of things you've got to think about is like, oh my God, my VA is messaging me all the time. The answer is hey, bring it to the meeting. Like, because stop all the calls happening outside, because they're like, how do I do this? You're like, bring it to the meeting or figure it out yourself, because I'm not here to be your personal like Jeeves, or use ChatGPT, for example. But the idea is you want to time box everything in, and the really important point is about doing that check-in on the target and then talking about where you actually are. So beginning, why we're here, what's the goal, always realigning towards the goal, and then going through the process and then recapping back against the goal. And you're always trying to reanalyze that. Too many times people hire staff and they're like, I like you, you're really nice, but you're not really achieving results, but I'm not going to tell you because I feel bad. No, you have to have that conversation all the time. It's like, how many Amazon sellers do you know, like, open up their, like, I don't want to look at my accounts. I don't want to look at my accounts because my accounts are scary and I don't really know, like, if they're really true or not. And it's like, you have to look at them because you can't change them if you look at it. You have to have that honest conversation.
I have a question. So right now, like when I'm reviewing leads, I have like there's yes, I'm buying this, no, I'm not buying this. But then there's like kind of like these maybe leads that like could be profitable in the future, or like you could just tell like they tanked, but like when they come back around, you are going to buy it. How would you, or do you not figure that in? It's either yes or no.
Yeah. It's up to, like, you are right. If we were talking about 100 leads, yes would probably be 20 and no would probably be like 50. And you'd have 30 in the middle and you're like, I could do well. I think my answer to you would be, there are so many different ways to analyze deals and to play them. And what do we mean by play them is that, do we get in, get out quick, sell it whatever the market price would be? Do we hold it for the long term? And what you really want to do is just be like, I understand that style of selling, and we have a process for going through it. Your goal isn't to be able to make all the money off all the deals. It isn't. Your goal is to be able to make decent money the majority of the time, and when things go wrong, you really don't lose too badly. I think, it's like Warren Buffett, rule number one is don't lose money, rule number two is remember rule number one. And the idea is whenever I look at a deal analysis is I'm basically understanding that I'm gambling. And the question I want to ask is, what's the upside versus the downside? If the upside is I'm going to make a 50% ROI and it sells pretty well, but the downside is I'm going to break even at worst, fine, let's go for it. But I'm always going to be asking the question back to my VA of like, what do you think? Because before I analyze the deal, I want them to be able to analyze it before me. And I'm trying to understand why their reasoning's wrong. And the other thing that we do, which is quite useful, by the way, is every day the VAs grab one of their deals, could be a good deal or a bad deal, but we're really looking for the anomalies. So let's say, for example, you normally trade at 30% ROI. So I'm looking for anything above 35 and anything below 10. And I'm going to ask them to take a screenshot of it, just one deal, the like Rev Seller and the Keeper chart, screenshot of it, draw a red line directly on the point that we purchased it, put in the buy price at the point of purchase, explain to me what they saw before and explain what they saw afterwards. Because we want them to learn from their feedback. Because Amazon is like a nightmare for feedback. Like they get feedback from you the same day from yes, I'll buy or I won't, but they don't get feedback from the market, which is the biggest problem. You get the feedback because you see the P&L. They don't.
Okay, that makes sense. How do you calculate KPI for a VA?
So targets, really simple. We have two kind of types. One is on the input, which is called purchases, and one is on the output, which is actual sales. So input is just how much are you spending and what's the ROI. That's it. So that's estimated gross profit. That's the key metric you look at on the input. The real reason is if you give me 10 deals and I can only buy 3 of them, I'm not even interested. If you give me 1 deal and I can buy 1 million of them and I want to buy 1 million of them, oh my God, I'm the happiest man alive. That 1 deal I'm really happy with. Obviously that's Michaela's space, not my area. And then on the other end is the actual sales, which is like kind of the lag time. It takes a month or 2 before you see it. The one you're looking at is actual gross profit. Easiest way to do that, get your, we have a sheet, the USS, it does it for you automatically and pulls all the data back. But the easiest way if you want to do it yourself, whenever you buy a product, just code put the name of the VA in there, not the full name, just call it like the first 3 letters, or give them a number, call it like VA1 or V01. So if you ever had more than 9 VAs, you're okay. So John, you're VA1, Michaela, you're V2. And then all you do is you go to Inventory Labs every month, download the report, and then just filter it for the code V01, V02, add up the total profit, and you'll see what they are. The really good one is, if we do it as well in the USS automatically, is we put in the estimated sale price at purchase into the SKU, so we can see what the actual sale price and the estimated was, and we can work out the variance. So we can start to say, okay, like out of all the deals that you sold last month, you're about 80%. So you thought you were going to make 10,000, you only made 8,000, about 80% variance. You thought you were going to make 8,000, you made 4,000. What the hell's going on with your deal analysis? Why do we think it's so high? It helps you just debug. But yeah, that's the two KPIs: estimated and actual gross profit, because your fixed costs are finite. That helps.
So when your VAs start, so let's say for you, do they get bonus right away?
Hell no, not for the first 3 months at least.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Because I'm just starting to work with one now and like thinking about like the profit bonus. I did tell him like once we get up and running, like then like we will implement bonus. But I was just curious.
I think it's kind of like, again, the farmer's got to plow it. It's like, I'm teaching you. Like, by the way, you're under probation for the first 3 months, and you've got to meet the criteria. And if you don't meet the criteria, then like that's it. Like a bonus is literally the bonus, but that's because you've added value to the company and you've now earned that. And you'll generally find that they won't. Like it might be the case that like, we just say 3 months, but it might be the case that go, look, I'm not going to pay a bonus until you've covered twice your wages in actual gross profits. Which I think is a very fair assessment. Ideally, we look for at least 3, if not 4 times gross wage in relation. So like how much they should be performing.
Interesting. Wow.
Michaela's got like a whiteboard.
Yeah, Michaela's taking notes over there. What else we got here? Do you give them free reign on how to source day to day, or give them a specific list of sites to source, or a combination?
It depends on your size. If you're like just a few, it's okay to do free reign. I'm still not a huge fan of it. And the reason is because, Michaela, you do wholesale. Do you do generic wholesale, or do you do a kind of specific niche within wholesale?
So I do generalized mostly. I used to do a lot of like electronics, but now I do a mix between like electronics and like consumables.
Why didn't you do like beauty? Why don't you do toys?
I do some beauty, very little. It's just not something that I've explored too much. I've had good success with the people that I've worked with, I guess, and I just haven't really explored outside of that yet.
And I think the answer is, look, let's put it this way. Don't hire a VA if you don't know how to source. That's called a disaster. If you don't know what you're doing, do not hire someone, because it's called a problem. But hopefully you know what you're doing and you know what works. So if Michaela right now, she's saying electronics works, that's fantastic. So what she can do is she can hire someone and teach them what she's been doing, which is working, and they can replicate and continue to scale it. It's like a mini Michaela. So we're looking to do that. So I'm not against free reign, but I do think that you probably want to build domain knowledge. And the reason is you build expertise. Like, if you're doing like OA, you're doing like Coles Cash, for example, you understand how the stores work. Free reign is a bit kind of like, I just do whatever I like, and we'll see how it works. It becomes very challenging to grow. And ultimately, I'm guessing you probably want to build a business which is growing rather than not. So the short answer is, I would say free reign is okay within a certain confines, and then I'll keep trying to narrow that down as you build it up. Because your goal is probably like, oh my God, shoes is working cool. We've got a VA there. We've got one in electronics, one in beauty. And then your other one is like, wow, shoes are doing really well. Let's put another VA in there and do that. Because every category you work in is so much bigger than one VA can manage. There are entire multi-billion-dollar companies, multi-billion-dollar companies doing just that one category. You're like, what? My one VA is struggling? No, like there should be lots of opportunity there. Hope that helps, David.
Interesting. So you basically have like some VAs that just source electronics, just source beauty, just source whatever.
We have, yeah. So, and the reason, yes, it's not just so much like that. So we have some which will do set categories. We'll have other ones which do certain other methodologies. So especially like in the UK, you're going to have ones whereby it's at the very low end. So we're going to be buying like 5 units a month, one product, like very like low, but they're going to be like $60 higher, because they're a lot higher value items that we can do a lot lower volume. You'll have other ones whereby they're doing storefront stalking. That's all they're doing. They're looking at competitors going through that. Why? Because there's a certain methodology. Other ones will be doing like newsletters, for example. So there's certain ways to do it, because really you're looking for like, where can I plug people in to do a process which we can continue to grow? Not where can I just see what works.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. So if you go ahead.
I was going to say, like, if Michaela's doing really well on electronics and beauty isn't so good, then you probably want to put more of your people into electronics because the margins are much better. To see what else can we get out of this until the returns start diminishing.
Got it. So if you just start with a VA, then should you basically give them like just one niche, do you think? Or should you just be like just storefront stock, and do you keep them doing that and then hire someone else to do manual, or do you try to get them trained in all different types?
I would give it a bit of free rein to start with, but I would say I will narrow you down towards the end of your probation.
Okay.
Unless you have somewhere that you really want to focus on. Like with us, we wouldn't do that. We'd be like, right, you're going into this category. We're hiring someone for electronics. Done.
Makes sense. Okay. When should someone get a VA? All the time.
You know what you're doing. That's the important one. You're profitable, and I define know what you're doing by the fact you're profitable. And by the way, you actually know that you're profitable, not like I have some nice orange bars and they look good. That's not profits, but I'm sure we all know that one. Number two is the fact that you have at least 1 hour a day to spend with your VA. If you don't have time, don't bother doing it. And then number two is you have at least $5,000 in cash to invest in their deals. So a VA which really costs about $500 a month ongoing. But if you have less than $5,000 in like credit card available spends somewhere, you're just not going to be able to cash flow them right. And again, if you're doing like Michaela's wholesale model, you probably need 10, 15,000 to do it because they're going to eat cash like there's no tomorrow. But generally, the higher your margins, the less cash you need, the lower your margins, or the bigger bulk you buy per purchase. Or, I'm sure Michaela will probably buy like more than 1 month's worth of supply, whereas John, like, I only buy 1 month, that's it. So I don't know exactly, but I'm guessing so, hence more cash.
Yeah, no, I feel like I've never heard anyone say that, like, have an hour and then like, money to actually spend on it, because I feel like a lot of people get one because they have no time. And then I guess if you can't invest time, right, that's no good either.
Yeah. And also as well, like, you want to take this seriously. Like, two things. Number one, hiring a VA is not going to give you a good ROI for the first 2-3 months. It's not. Your goal is 1 year down the line, 6 months down the line, you're like, wow, this is amazing. But it's building and investing in people. And also number two, the fact that this is someone's life you're talking about. It isn't like, you shouldn't do it with dogs, but how many people buy a dog for Christmas? And then they're like, it's like awful. But like, this is someone's life you're talking about. So if you're gonna hire them, have a commitment that you're going to take this business seriously over the next couple of years, or at least a year, and hence why the kind of like 1 hour a day, generally it cuts down, but the 1 hour a day is a really important metric that we look at just to say that this is where it should be.
Awesome. Cool. You guys have any more questions, drop them. We're just going to try to wrap this up. Do you have any parting advice for people trying to hire VAs, or where can people find you, all that kind of stuff?
So fasttrackfba.com, or fasttrackfba everywhere. I think that's all the same thing. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I've interviewed you guys before, and it's a real pleasure. So you see me around. So any parting advice for people with VAs? No, I think don't go into the equation thinking that they're an all-singing, all-dancing, amazing person who's going to solve every problem you've got. They are people who need to learn, take time, they need support. And again, always align back towards the goal, give them all the support they need, everything that they need to do, but just make sure that you are always reaffirming what success looks like. You start with the end in mind, define what the success metrics are, and say, this is make or break. If you achieve this, you've got a job with me for the rest of your life. If you don't achieve this, you won't. But I will do everything in my power to help you. But I need to be clear, I'm not the one to achieve the goal, you are. That's it. Understand it's not their job to do it. Because I've seen it too many times, people kind of like, I like them. You're like, yeah, I like doing business. But unfortunately, if my P&L isn't good, business doesn't like doing work with me. So I need to be like realistic with that.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions that weren't answered, Tom has a great YouTube channel. I've watched a ton of his videos. One of the most helpful videos for me was probably, I think you reviewed leads with a virtual assistant. And one of the biggest takeaways was just how positive you were. It was like, this is amazing if this, and this, and that. It wasn't like, this is bad. Like, no. It was just like, oh my God, like if you could find this, but in this situation, like this would be amazing. And I think that's like a really big part of it. So to be like, no, like this sucks. No. It was just very eye-opening. I'm like, okay, like this makes sense.
I think that's a really important part. But like, hey, regardless, like I've done management for years, and I'm a big believer in be realistic, set the targets, but also number two is the fact that motivate and encourage. Like be a great boss. That's it. Like you can still hold people accountable and say well done and say like. And by the way, even when you've had the worst day of your life, there's still one thing that's good in it, and the good people go out of the way to find what that one good thing is and celebrate it. Why? Because telling you that your shit doesn't help.
True.
It's not going to help anyone. You know, when we feel down, we listen to motivational music, not like I want to kill myself music. Like,
that's always important. Thank you so much for being here. This was a blast. Nicole just said so much gold. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm definitely going to watch this one back. Definitely a lot to learn from this one. And go follow him. Check out Fast Track FBA, YouTube, all over the place. And thanks again.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Have a good one, guys. We will see you next week.
Bye.